by the European Union to jet maker Airbus, which gave that company a big advantage over Boeing. And that worried Wall Street today, sending the Dow sharply lower, down 190 points, the NASDAQ down 44. Bank of America hiking its minimum wage next month to $17 an hour, up to $20 an hour in just 2 years. Walmart now using robots in 1,500 stores, scrubbing floors, tracking inventory, and unloading trucks. JetBlue Airlines reportedly planning to announce new flights to Europe that could come as early as tomorrow. And Airbnb doing an about-face, saying it will now allow listings in Israeli-occupied settlements in the West Bank, but will donate the profits to humanitarian organizations. Tom Busby, CNBC.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I shopped the many highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $27 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 800-445-6363. That's 800-445-6363. 800-445-6363. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
California headline news, a Bay Area couple, a Hollywood star, among those cutting plea deals in the college admissions cheating scandal. Legal analyst Royal Oakes in Los Angeles explaining why Felicity Huffman and others are admitting their guilt now.
It's probably a smart idea to cut plea deals early. Prosecutors generally are a little easier on folks when they enter into these deals early on in the process.
Not clear if Huffman will face jail time. Fellow actress Lori Loughlin wasn't part of Monday's round of plea deals. More than 30 still facing charges in the federal prosecution, accused of bribes and test cheating to get their kids into elite colleges. Northern California Congressman Eric Swalwell says he's set to work on improving our nation.
I've been in Congress for 6 years. I've defended our country from the Intelligence Committee while democracy's been on the ropes. I took a group of young members of Congress, started a group called Future Forum. We've gone all over the country to listen to and stand up for the next generation of Americans.
Swalwell confirming on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert that he's running for president. Jeff Scott, California News.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/search. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/search. That's ZipRecruiter.com/search. ZipRecruiter.com/search.
I'm finally getting my abs back thanks to TC1 Gel. I gained some inches around the belly last year and the holidays didn't help either. But then I discovered TC1 Gel and now 2019 is the year of my abs returning. TC1 Gel is a thermogenic gel that you rub on your waist 15 minutes before exercising. Then simply put on the TC1 sweat belt and start your workout. You'll sweat like crazy and feel the burn. It focuses on boosting circulation, increasing perspiration, activates body heat, reduces muscle fatigue, and burns off more calories. Get your TC1 Gel now. Go to TC1Gel.com and use the code RADIO30 for a 30% discount on this amazing product. Again, RADIO30 is a code for 30% off the regular low price of TC1 Gel. You can also go to www.tc followed by the numeral 1 gel.com. That's TC number 1 gel.com. TC1Gel.com. Get rid of a few inches and get your abs back with TC1 Gel. Also, follow them on Instagram, handle TC1 Gel.
Talk 102.3 FM Riverside. Thank you, America, for making us radio's number one format for 8 years. Talk 102.3 FM, Riverside. KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Right before me, my newfound hippie side. Once ignored these conspiracies online. Out the window, visions of the earth. Sign me up now, make sure you use your smart. Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Would your children ride to see Mother Nature's side?
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Welcome, everyone. This is Smart Health Talk radio show. I'm your host, Elaine McFadden, a registered dietitian who believes that you should be eating organic food. And we're going to have quite a few arguments in favor of that. And I have some great organic products here that I'm going to go over to start with. But I'm also going to be getting into in the news, some different things that are going on that relate to what we're talking about here that I think are critical to your health and for the people that you love and for the future of us being able to stay healthy. Not just us, but our children and our children's children, because we're leaving the planet to them and we are supposed to leave them a planet that they can live in. And we're really not there. As a matter of fact, we're going down the road to make it uninhabitable. And if we don't make some changes soon, we're going to be in big trouble, especially when it comes to the warming of the planet, because we have not even been this warm. We have not had this much carbon in the air since the dinosaurs were here. That's how long it's been since we've had this much carbon in the air. So that should give us an idea on just how dire our current position is. But the thing is, we could be doing this whole thing like way better about, in so many different respects. And everyone thinks that for some reason that we have to have poison on our food, that we have to poison our farmlands in order to even bring us food in the store. And guess what? Before pesticides, for like thousands of years, people were doing just fine without pesticides. They were able to produce food and sell it for a profit, and people were able to buy it, and the system worked great. We have regenerative organic farmers that are making 79% higher profit margin than conventional farmers. And you guys heard about the whole avocado issue because they come from Mexico. And we have been asking people, please don't buy avocados from Mexico. Why? Well, they're actually cutting down the trees where the monarch butterflies go and hibernate over the winter so they can plant more avocado trees. We don't want that. That forest is critical for the monarch's survival on our planet. So we can plant avocados anywhere, but we can't recreate that forest anywhere. And so we've asked people, please don't even buy avocados from Mexico. Well, what's happening is because people are, because of this whole avocado thing, it turns out that the organic avocados are actually becoming a better buy since we don't have all the Mexican ones. See how we could actually start balancing out our whole food system and the price of food. What we're paying for the cheap food, which is cheap food that makes you fat, it's only that cheap because we're subsidizing it with our tax dollars. If we had the true cost of food out there, we could have a competitive system here. A competitive system that would make organic affordable for everyone. But it actually is affordable, and we're going to get into some of those reasons why as well. But I want to welcome Christine Lampe to our show. She is our master gardener, and I had a really special thing happen today when it comes to butterflies. And in case those of you that don't know, Blue Monarch Project is our Blue Monarch Sanctuary nursery that we have. And we've raised thousands of monarchs. So we're all for butterflies. And Christine is going to give us some ideas on what we can all do to help the butterflies even more. So Christine, are you there?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, I got to put on my earphones. I forgot. If I want to hear you. Okay. Okay, testing. Can say hello again.
Hello.
Okay, I can hear you. Yeah, we're in business. Well, gosh, you've been like traveling around the world, Christine. How was Ireland?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was interesting seeing. I got to visit some Victorian walled gardens and see how they were growing food crops and herbs. And how they had their trees espaliered. I'd heard all about that, so it was kind of fun to see that in person, especially apple trees. They have a lot of different kinds of apple trees there. And their farmers market was incredible. The one in Dunleary, which is just south of Dublin, they had so much organic stuff there at the farmers market. You know, greens, vegetables. There was grass-fed, a booth with grass-fed beef and meat.
And they say they don't eat healthy in Ireland, and you found just the opposite, right?
That they're not so healthy?
Yeah, because they used to say, oh, they don't eat healthy in like England and Ireland.
Well,
they just eat mainly potatoes.
In the restaurants, I mean, there's the pub food. You know, fish and chips is not all that healthy, although I do love fish and chips.
Yeah,
they have,
yeah,
a lot
me too.
of things to do with Guinness or Jameson whiskey, and but a lot of the bars of the pubs still had superfood salads with greens and quinoa and beets and pomegranate seeds and sunflower seeds in them. They weren't organic necessarily, which would have been better, but so most places had a good, healthy option like that as well. And vegans, you know, food for vegans seems quite, you know, everywhere had some kind of vegan option. So I guess
That's
there's
nice.
a huge vegan movement there.
Well, I think it's really happening all over. I think people are seeing the value in, not eating meat. You don't have to have meat at every single meal. And
or just use a little bit of it for flavoring.
Yes, exactly. And that's actually the way the Asians have used meat for thousands of years. It wasn't like the main part of the meal. It would be there with all the other vegetables. And we can save so many resources by not doing that. But we're doing so many things wrong because I know that. Do we have that? Can we play the one, Dr. Lundgren, about the one offsetting all the carbon? I have like 4 clips we're going to play during our show today, and one of them is from Dr. Jonathan Lundgren, and he was explaining that if we just grazed our animals instead of factory farming, and who wants to eat factory farm meat anyway? Nobody does, If we would just graze our animals, that we could actually offset all the carbon that we produce in the U.S. So are we ready?
Well, and most of the meat in Ireland, I would see a lot of places said, meat raised in Ireland or totally grass-fed or pastured meat. So a lot of their meat was, that kind
Well,
of
I'm glad they're making use of that good green pasture land they got there.
Oh.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Nick. Are we going to play that?
We have two clips from Dr. Lundgren. I have one that is that's listed if plants sprayed with pesticide, and I have how to kill 360,000 bees with one seed.
Okay. We had another clip too, but we don't have that one ready. But I already said what he said. It's okay. We'll get to those in a minute. But he also had said that if we would just, do what they're doing in Ireland, everybody, get rid of those horrible factory farms, which I don't know if you heard this, Christine, but there's actually now a huge dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico because there are so many factory farms right there in Texas, and all that excrement. We have million-gallon excrement ponds at these factory farms, people. I mean, and inside there's antibiotic-resistant bacteria and E. coli, and people hear about contaminated lettuce, and that. Well, where do you think it's getting contaminated from? Finally, we had Dr. Hansen, Michael Hansen from Consumers Report on our show several years ago, and asked him, do you think it's coming from the factory farms and it gets into the irrigation and then they spray that on the lettuce and then people eat the E. coli from the factory farm? And he's like, of course, he pulls out some study, out of his brain that verified that. And now, finally, they're talking about it on the news. On regular television. It wasn't until this year that I ever heard, the source could be, an animal source. Finally, they admitted it. I was like, it's about time. We were only talking about that years ago. But, if we eliminate those factory farms, then we eliminate the need to destroy massive amounts of produce because it's been contaminated, because we won't have a system like that. And I just, when you think about, all these, something I read, Christine, that was so fascinating. They said that the farmers no longer want to use horse manure because there is so much glyphosate in it that the plants won't grow.
Well, I just heard on NPR, I think it was on the Here and Now program, about dicamba and how they lost a lot of soybeans last year because they were killed off by dicamba. And so a lot of farmers don't want to grow near other farmers that are using the dicamba, although they are, they've developed a GMO dicamba-resistant soybean. And, it was all talking about how, we first had the Roundup glyphosate-resistant crops, the soybeans and sugar beets and such, and that then eventually they developed resistant weeds, the Palmer's amaranth or pigweed that grows like 12 feet tall and gets as thick around as a baseball bat, so it fouls up the combines when they're trying to go through the fields. And then so they developed the dicamba, or brought back the dicamba because it was a previous pesticide that we'd stopped using because it was so harsh, herbicide. And so they brought the dicamba back to try to deal with the pigweed. But now they're developing resistant varieties of the pigweed to that, too. We're just going to keep escalating this war. So I was so heartened to hear on this show that a farmer said, we need to go back to where you don't use the pesticides. These farmers need to learn to use, using crop rotation, using physical methods, and to stop depending upon the pesticides. I was so happy to hear that.
Well, and I am very happy to hear that too. And for everyone that's listening, if that is something that you're interested in, you want to share that information. The person that we just mentioned, Dr. Jonathan Lundgren at Blue Dasher Farm, if you type in Blue Dasher Farm, that is exactly what Dr. Lundgren is doing. Is he's working with all these groups of farmers and he's teaching them, he's reteaching them about the old-fashioned way of farming, because so many of them, all they know is GMO and pesticide and liquid fertilizer, which, we keep telling people that's from fracking.
It is just like being addicted to drugs.
It is. I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah, you start down this road of using the pesticides, and you have to keep using the pesticides and the synthetic fertilizers because you've killed off all the soil bacteria and fungi, the beneficial organisms in the soil, so you don't have those things still around to help your plants. So then you're still dependent on this stuff. It's awful.
Okay, listen to this, Christine. So from they went around, and this is a new report that just came out about pesticides in our water system. And they went around, they've confirmed very clearly the earlier findings of a high pollution of small rivers by pesticides from agriculture. From a total of 217 pesticide active ingredients investigated, 145 active substances could be detected in the analyzed streams. And then not just that, but on average, a cocktail of about 34 active substances was measured often over a longer period. So just one small body of water could have 34 different active substances in it. So what about people that are swimming in that and accidentally swallowing it? And I know that Okinobe or Okinobe, that one.
The biggest lake in Florida.
Yes. I had a guest on that said that body of water is being sprayed with Roundup 7 days a week. They never stop spraying that lake. It is sprayed 7 days a week because they just keep going. You know, they have to go around the entire perimeter. So they never stop going out there and spraying it. And that's just like a dumping ground, too, for the sugar industry, the algae. And
they've had those algal blooms that are just awful in that lake.
It destroys everything.
All
it
the
kills
agricultural products, just flowing down into it.
Yeah, and so not just we've got a cocktail of what in there? What the heck are we creating out there? It's like, it just drives me crazy, on what all the different reports that are coming out. But I wanted to get back into the pesticides and some of the different research that we had with that. But I want to touch on something positive. I had texted you that I actually saw a red admiral butterfly. Actually, I counted. I realized I saw 4 butterflies like in one day, different butterflies. I was so excited. No monarchs yet. Have you had a monarch?
I haven't seen any monarchs, but I went hiking yesterday down near the Santa Ana River in the Hidden Valley Regional Park area, and there are painted ladies everywhere. And I found the caterpillars. They're hosting on the mallows and the yellow fiddleneck plants. So because I have a school presentation tomorrow on butterflies. I had nothing because I've been gone to Ireland all this time, so I hadn't been raising any. So I found a bunch to bring, but the painted ladies are just everywhere down there.
That is so exciting. And did you see the report that because of some freak weather type situation that the monarchs, the numbers are greater this year than they've been for a long time?
Or the eastern monarchs.
Oh, the eastern monarchs. Okay.
The western monarchs are way down. I think they're like 85% less than last year.
Wow.
So those are our California monarchs. It might have had to do with, the drought.
The fires.
And all the fires last year. There was probably a lot of fires in valuable habitat for them, or just the smoke from the fires in the air. But yeah, I think it's the Thanksgiving count they do. The numbers were way down. The Xerxes at Xerxes.org, they had articles about that.
Well, we're hoping to have some, we've got a bunch of milkweed plants, but we have a bunch of replanting to do to have everything ready. So I'm hoping that our Blue Monarch Project Nursery will have milkweed plants ready to buy. And this is a good time to play, Nick. We could play the one about the 360,000 bees. Because I want to encourage everyone to, you only buy organic milkweed or get some seeds and just grow your own, or buy from us, Blue Monarch Nursery, because these pesticides actually stay in the plant for a long period of time. And I have some new research that I'm going to share with Christine and our listeners here after we listen to Dr. Lundgren. Go ahead and play that. Well, they coat seeds with this, and I think that's something that people don't understand very much, is that we're coating seeds with pesticides.
Right.
Why don't you explain how that works?
Seeds don't come out red and blue, right? They're treated with various chemicals to hopefully help the farmer, but the 13% of the terrestrial land surface of our country right now, that's not crop acres, that's land surface, is treated with these neonicotinoids, and one corn seed has enough insecticide on it to kill 360,000 bees. So this is a major problem. This is one of the biggest problems of our generation, I think, right now.
So this is a big problem, everyone. And Christine was touching on the dicamba, which we have dicamba, we have 2,4-D, we have glyphosate, we have chloropyrifos, and then we also have the RNA that I think you touched on, Christine, that is like super scary. And what they're finding on this, they did they did a study on woody plants that were collected in forest-based applications, and unfortunately, there's a lot of pesticide spraying. The lumber industry will clear cut because that's the most efficient for them as far as like gas and all that kind of stuff. So they clear cut a whole section, then they spray it with pesticides because they only want the trees, the new trees, to grow. They don't want any of the other like floor type plants growing. And it's like being running down and going into other areas of the forest close to where people are living. Plus, people actually go to the forest and they pick plants to eat. And so they were wondering, what happens? Does the glyphosate like dissipate in the forest, or does it stay there? Well, they tested the shoot, fruit, and root portions of select species and analyzed them for glyphosate and the breakdown product, which is AMPA residues. And glyphosate residues were found 1 year post-application. The highest and most consistent levels of glyphosate and AMPA were found in herbaceous perennial root tissues, but shoot tissues and fruit were also shown to contain glyphosate in select species. So the levels were greater than expected, and the findings indicate the ability of glyphosate to be stored in root structures of perennial plants during dormancy periods and move up to shoot and fruit portions in the years following applications in some species. So this has to be true for when you use it anywhere. So this is pretty much saying when you spray glyphosate, it doesn't disappear. It actually stays in the soil, and then when the shoot and the fruit and the flowers and the nectar all come, it actually has glyphosate in those parts of the plant. And that is what Dr. Lundgren was saying. He was saying that the neonicotinoids are systemic. That means they get throughout the plant and in the soil. And so even months later, when
they come out in the pollen and the nectar.
Exactly. And so that's why this is so disturbing that Lowe's and Home Depot and Moon Valley Nursery chain and all these different nurseries are spraying pesticides on everything, including neonicotinoids, even though people have been begging them to not do it. And you've been gone, but they have started playing all these Roundup commercials on television, and it's driving me insane.
Although the good news is Costco is no longer carrying Roundup.
Well, I just saw another post that's questioning on whether that's really happening, because they're not selling Roundup, but they're selling a different version of something
Cream.
that has glyphosate in it. I have to go back and look closer look at it. And then someone else pointed out to me that there was an ortho product see, this is what I hate. So many times, like Annie's bought by General Mills, they use this bait and switch type tactic. They get to be known as organic, and then they're bought. And then they start pumping out non-organic products, and people just assume that they're organic, but they're not. They're non-organic because they're a much higher profit margin on the non-organic.
For the organic products, they need to have the OMRI certification, OMRI.
Okay, well, yeah, that's true. But Ortho, what they did is they came out with a new product that's supposed to be OMRI certified and like safe, organic. But they put it in the very same packaging as their glyphosate product. They just changed the color of the bottle. So, I mean, people could be thinking that they're buying the green one, but they're really buying the glyphosate, But they, instead of creating a new product, they just kept their same name of their product, like something Guard, Ortho, like Weed Guard or something like that. And they kept the same name, and now this is the green one. That's why I don't even want to buy from any of those companies. I just soon not even buy any of their products. I'd rather buy from another company that's offering an eco-friendly product than some revised version of an Ortho or a Scott's or a Dow or a Monsanto product or Bayer, any of those.
And actually, to properly garden and such, in an organic method, it's not just switching out one product for another. It's changing your tactics. It's using more physical barriers. It's using your timing. And pulling weeds by hand is not illegal.
It's not such a horrible thing. Well, I wanted to ask you because I saw that I told you I saw the Red Admiral, and my neighbor had complained that she had
the stinging nettle.
The stinging nettle, like showing up in her lawn.
It's a very beneficial plant, other than the stinging part. You can use that plant for. In fact, I just went this morning and harvested some from a neighbor's right-of-way area because I know they're just going to mow it. You can use that to make a fertilizer, an organic fertilizer. You just soak it in water in a bucket for several weeks. It gets stinky, so make sure you put a lid on it and also keep the mosquitoes out. But then it'll liquefy, and it's a great root drench. And yeah, it's a host plant for a lot of pollinators. And nettles are great. It's a beneficial herb to make a tea out of for people.
I've wanted to do the tea, but I was like, oh man, would I have a reaction or something? Because
no, when you cook it, the stinging part is only just when you brush up against it. It's like little syringes along the stem that break off into your skin. But if you cook it, or also you can make pesto out of it. Just by blending it, you get rid of all that.
What if it has like the little seeds and stuff in it? Like, do you eat the seed part too?
Well, they're not going. The seed part's not going to sting you.
Oh, okay. So when you make tea, you use the seeds and everything, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and just by boiling it.
Well, I told you I saw the red so I went and I had a whole bunch of them in my yard, and I went and pulled them, but thank goodness there was some on the other side of my yard that I didn't see, and they grew. Because I go out there and I'm like, is that butterfly laying eggs on my nettles? And I went and looked, it was a Red Admiral, I guess, and I didn't, I thought it was laying eggs, and then I went and looked, and I found out that was a host plant for the Red Admiral butterfly, and when I went and looked closely, I could see the eggs on the stinging nettles. I was so excited.
Great.
I thought I have butterfly eggs, yay! And I saw a yellow butterfly. Oh, go ahead.
When I was harvesting it, I was aware of that too, but I was afraid they were just going to mow it anyway, so that's why I went ahead and harvested that patch. I have some growing in my yard that I let grow.
Well, I hope there wasn't a bunch of Red Admiral eggs on those stinging nettles.
I didn't see any. I didn't look that close, but I didn't see any. And it was in the shade. They probably would be laying on it more in patches out in the sun.
Yeah, by some miracle, I had like 2 in my yard, and I did see a painted lady. A painted lady's was coming through, and I guess it just decided to just stay. And then I saw a yellow butterfly, and I saw a swallowtail as well. So I saw 4 different butterflies. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm so worried, though, my neighbors are going to start spraying pesticides. It's like I'm going to try to go door to door and talk to people. And so what do you what's good advice? If you just go ask people, not to spray Roundup, not to use those things, and that's like been their habit of doing it.
Well, and encourage them, let them know that they're harming the pollinators, the butterflies and the bees. A lot of people are really interested in helping the butterflies and bees, and I always encourage them that they can try to grow some flowers, nectar flowers. Hopefully something that will bloom all year round, so they have food sources all year round. We do have butterflies that are still even active in the winter. The mourning cloaks overwinter as butterflies, and that's a very common butterfly here in California, although definitely not as much as when I was a kid. I used to see so many as a kid, and now I hardly see them. But, we got bees through the winter, too. So, it's always good to have something that's blooming all year round. And California natives, the native plants do bloom in the winter and the very early spring, so it's really good to have a lot of natives growing in your garden. Try to have... and then there's the food plants for the caterpillars. So that's different than the nectar plants for the adult butterflies. So the adult butterflies, things that are good for them are in the sunflower family, Tithonia, which is the Mexican torch sunflowers. They're orangish-red sunflowers, one of the best. But any kind of sunflower-type flower is great. Ceanothus, lantana, just a lot of these that, just have nice flat landing zones for the butterflies. They don't like the long tubular flowers. Those are more for the hummingbirds, which are still great to have, too, because we want to help our hummingbirds. But also it's good to have the food plants for the caterpillars. And those can be very specific. So as you said, the stinging nettles were a host plant or a food plant. That term means the same thing.
That's where they lay the eggs.
For caterpillars. So they lay their eggs on that plant, and then the caterpillars eat the leaves of that plant. So some people aren't that happy to have their plants eaten on, like passion vine. That gets a butterfly called the Gulf fritillary. And so the caterpillars will eat those leaves. And some people don't like their plants getting munched on. But if you're, actually a lot of plants respond positively to being munched on. It makes them grow more. So as long as they're not being completely inundated, it's actually good to have, caterpillars on your plants. And then you talked about the milkweeds earlier, and, that's a host plant for the monarchs. That's the only host plant that monarchs use. There's a wide variety of milkweeds, but it has to be a milkweed plant. And with the Gulf fritillaries I just mentioned, I believe that is the passion vine is the only host plant for it. But the painted ladies that we're having a huge, population explosion right now, the painted ladies, they host on several different plants. A lot of them are just kind of common weeds, as we call them. But the mallows, or what some people call cheeseweed, is a very common one. But the yellow fiddlenecks, which are growing on the fields everywhere right now. If you're out looking at the poppy, to see the poppies and the different lupins and stuff, the fiddlenecks are out there too. And they're the yellow one, and they're called fiddlenecks because they kind of curl up like the top of a violin, the fiddle. It's a little spiral at the end.
Are they the ones that look like a jet? They are they yellow and they look like a little jet airplane?
The flower?
Oh no, the butterfly.
Oh, the painted ladies?
No, the fitterly.
Oh, are you saying like a little delta wing?
Yeah, it looks like a like a little.
Fritillaries look very similar to monarchs, only about 2/3 of the size. But instead of orange and black, they are kind of dark brownish and orange.
Oh, I was thinking of those little yellow ones that look like
yellow ones.
Yeah, they're really tiny.
The sulfur. We have a couple of different sulfurs that are yellow.
Yeah,
but
they look.
The fiddlenecks are the flowers that are that the painted lady butterflies are hosting on. Painted ladies are kind of they're about half the size of a monarch, And they're orange and black and brown. Very similar to the red admirals you were talking about. They're closely related, I believe.
Oh, I was going through some of the different things that I was going to announce during the show. And, everyone was doing that ice bucket challenge for ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Uh-huh.
Remember that was all like the craze?
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, now they just came out with new research that says glyphosate, Roundup, causes Lou Gehrig's disease. A new study that just came out. So there, that, and then another study.
So much research about Roundup, yeah.
Well, this is the latest one because we're wondering, why are people getting Lou Gehrig's disease? Oh, well, maybe because they were exposed to like a lot of glyphosate or eating like a lot of glyphosate. So
I don't think glyphosate existed back then, but I'm sure, it just aggravated what was happening.
Right, because I think, some people may be, predisposed and they get it easier, but there could be but who knows, like even back in the Roman times, they were eating lead and going crazy because they were eating lead.
Oh, yeah, and then during, the 1700s and 1800s in England and Europe, the makeup that they wore, this white makeup, that was lead and mercury that they just pasted on their face.
Yeah, and then they put belladonna like drops to make their eyes their pupils look really big.
No wonder anybody survived that time period.
I know, and no antibiotics.
Well, and there's syphilitic.
Black plague.
We're awful too.
I know. So, but the thing is, because I've had some things happen to me, and I thought, well, what would people do back in, a couple hundred years ago if they had this? And then I thought, oh, well, they wouldn't have been exposed to the organophosphate pesticide like I was. So this wouldn't even happen. But there's probably mechanisms. There's probably different pathways where that kind of mistake can happen, but people are already genetically predisposed, and then you get subjected to a certain environmental issue. It can just turn that switch on, like really easy if you're already predisposed.
Right.
But another study came out and said you reduce your risk of cancer by 25% by eating an organic diet. That was another new study that came out. And they actually they did a really detailed of measuring they put people on an all organic diet and then, a conventional, then they went on all organic diet and measured the amount of pesticides in their system. And there's absolutely no doubt that the organic diet was a lot less pesticides. And I was reading something that I've been saying for years, and I was glad to hear another scientist say it, that we forget that children are growing and their body weight. We never test for pesticides on children or drugs on children. They
don't even test them on women. They test them on men.
Yes. It's like a 185-pound male. And children, their bodies, for the dose to weight ratio, it is like way higher. And they are the most vulnerable. That is what's crazy. It's like, why are we not testing, one of the most vulnerable parts of our population to see what these pesticides will do? And it's just collecting everywhere. It's collecting in our water systems. It's collecting in our air. It's collecting in our soil. And I think people are just like saying, we've had enough of this. We're just sick of these friggin' pesticides. Over in France, they've said like no GMOs. They had to destroy like a couple 100,000 hectares of land because there was a GMO contamination.
Well, when I was in Ireland, I had a lady telling me about how they were trying to do some trials for a GMO potato. Again, after that was the first item that came out long ago, that Pushtai, that he came, was the whistleblower about. But they're trying it again in the last few years, and she said so many people, they came out and kept ripping up the plants out of the field. They gave up.
And that was Monsanto trying to push their GMO potatoes. But guess what, everyone? You know those French fries you're eating at McDonald's? They're probably GMO potatoes. So everything that Ireland's rejecting, it's being stuffed down your throat. You're being forced to eat it because our government allowed it. And the fast food industry wants all their little French fries perfect. They don't want any little spots
now
on
Burger
there.
Burger King isn't Burger King is promoting the Impossible Burger? One of those fast food companies is carrying the Impossible Burger, a vegan variety.
Yes, I saw that. And the
first thing I
thought was GMOs and glyphosate. That if it's not organic and it's vegan, it's probably made with soy, and pretty much all the soy is GMO.
Yeah, Pam Larry was a GMO free. She had a lot of information about that, and that is a lot of GMOs.
Yeah, I went and checked them on the Beyond Meat burgers and all those. They sound great, and actually they taste really good. But the problem is the hidden ingredients in there. It's like, no, thank you. I don't need it.
Well, they have so much hype behind these things that, I had friends that saying, well, aren't these healthy? They thought there was supposed to be healthier options. But no, organic is the best thing. And like, you're saying, you can reduce your pesticide load, going into your body if you're eating all organic diet. But also, by eating organic, that means you are supporting farmers who are growing organic, which then means that's more people who are not using pesticides in our environment. So it's a win-win-win.
Well, the one Eco Watch test found out of 19 out of 20 beers and wines tested, glyphosate was in them.
Yeah, even some of the organic wines, they still have they get the drift. So although organic is better, we still need to get it. It can't coexist with the glyphosate because they're still contaminating whatever we're trying to eat.
Well, you didn't get to hear the show last week, but one of the biggest lawn and turf distributors in the country, they have distribution warehouses all over in many, like over 20 states. They are not going to sell any glyphosate product anymore because their insurance company said they would no longer cover any lawsuits related to glyphosate.
Ooh. That's awesome.
I know. I thought that was huge. I made a video out of it and stuff because I was like, man, this is saying something. And that was because we had the second judgment
trial, yeah.
And this was a federal case in San Francisco. We had the California case for $289 million, and then we had a $22 million settlement just a couple weeks ago, and we have 11,000 pending. So I think some people are probably getting really nervous. And I was looking through this other testing that was done by Friends of the Earth for glyphosate they went to Walmart, Costco, Kroger, Albertsons, and Safeway looking for their private label organic or their private label products, just their private label products. And it was like glyphosate, they tested 30 oat cereals, okay? 100% of them had glyphosate with an average of 360 parts per billion. 100%. Now, this is the one that really got me. And that was 27 pinto bean samples tested. 100% of them had residues with an average of 509 parts per billion. Now, pinto beans, these are one of the foods that I tell people to buy in bulk organic because it's such a great bargain. You can make it at home, and for the cost to go out and buy a burrito, you can make it at home so much cheaper.
But aren't they spraying it with glyphosate as a desiccant?
Yes, they're spraying. You're exactly right, Christine. Thanks for saying that. And what Christine just said, desiccant, means they're spraying it right before they harvest it so that the plants die.
So they all mature at the same time, and then it dries up and kills the rest of the plant. So it's easier for them to just harvest the beans off the plant. But that means you're getting a dose of glyphosate just before those beans are going to come to market for you. So yeah, beans and grains, they're doing this more and more, using glyphosate as a desiccant, just before harvest. And sugar cane. So even if sugar cane is not GMO, it is still very important.
Well, and all the oats, and that's why
organic.
And all the
oatmeal,
oats, yeah, that's why
why
all the oat cereals, 100%, were like testing positive for glyphosate. And
that's why I buy organic oatmeal from Winco or Sprouts. But again, it's still I'm sure the organic stuff is still getting drift and getting contaminated.
But at least it's a lot less. It's still a lot
less. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a lot less. And the thing is, like, for years, I tested like buying the organic beans versus the conventional beans. And I've known for a long time that the soil nutritional content in a fracking oil source fertilizer, which is what we use, everyone. Your food comes from fracking. That versus a soil full of all kinds of microorganisms and nutrients, that when I bought something as simple as bulk pinto beans, when I cooked the conventional ones, Christine, they did not cook the same as the organic ones. The beans would actually fall apart into little pieces, the conventional ones, and they didn't taste the same. They weren't anywhere near as good. The organic ones, they stayed whole, and they did not fall apart. And they had, to me, a much different flavor. I could totally tell. Because I'm a diet registered dietitian, so we actually have food science classes that are required for our degree. And so I'm thinking, I think in terms of food science, and I'm really testing these things just like I was in a test kitchen. And I definitely saw a difference. And for neonicotinoids, 22 applesauce samples tested, 73% had an average of, for the neonicotinoids, 0.037, whatever that is. But the spinach had 80% had neonicotinoids, and then the organophosphates. Okay, this really pissed me off, Christine, because applesauce. I worked with school food service, and they're serving applesauce to our kids in school.
Yeah.
And plus they're serving them apples. And I kept telling, they're like, oh, we try to give them apples and they throw them away. I said, you're feeding them poison apples. They're kids. They haven't been smoking and drinking their whole life. Their palate isn't destroyed. You don't think they can't taste there's poison in there? Maybe that's why they're throwing it away. But anyway, 22 apple samples tested, 100% had the brain-destroying pesticides in it. 100% of the applesauce. I have a North Coast applesauce here, organic applesauce with berries, and guess what? This one doesn't have 100% is not going to have this really high level of a brain-destroying pesticide in it. I mean, this is just like unacceptable to me. And it goes on. It just keeps getting worse. 100% of all the pinto beans that they tested were all like way off the charts. The applesauce, just all these different things. So I have a couple other things here that I was going to share. High mowing seeds. Organic seeds, right, Christine? People can now buy, organic seeds readily available online at stores. These seeds have not been treated. Remember, we just had Dr. Lundgren saying one coated seed could kill 360,000 bees.
Right, they use the neonicotinoids. They just roll the seeds or spray the seeds with the neonicotinoids, and then that little tiny amount actually gets inside the plant as the plant is growing, and then comes out in the pollen and the nectar when the bees and the butterflies are visiting them. So yeah, it's important to at least, if you're not getting organic seeds, at least make sure you're getting non-treated seeds.
Okay, now I have a question for you. Now, we mentioned the OMRI, OMRI certification for organic gardening.
For products.
Yeah, so if it has that OMRI, is there any chance at all that it could hurt bees or butterflies?
Yes.
Okay, so people have to not just accept the OMRI, they have to actually look up and see if there's risks associated with that, even green organic type pesticide.
I mean, I don't use any pesticides. If I have things like aphids, you just spray them off with a blast of water. 3 days in a row, you're done with the aphids. You really knock their numbers back. You don't want to get rid of all your aphids because you want them as food for your ladybugs, and you want to keep your ladybugs around. But if you have a lot of aphids, just put your thumb over the end of the hose, or put a little jet nozzle on the hose, and spray them. Not so hard that it tears your plants apart, but just wash them off because those are they're sucking the juices out of your plants. They're like little vampires, and you just wash them off. You break off their jaw parts. But if you happen to wash off a good insect, they're just going to crawl back on the plant. When the good guys that are the predators, so it's not they don't have their jaws stuck into the plant. So it's just you're hurting the guys who are sucking the juices out of your plants. And like I said, it's also not illegal to pull plants by hand or to use a hoe or to do crop rotations.
Or just pour some vinegar on it.
And also just getting more diversity in your garden. The more diversity you get, especially if you get a lot of the what they call the insectary plants. These are a lot of the herbs, cilantro, parsley, fennel, dill, sunflowers, nasturtiums, borage. These attract the good insects, the ladybugs and the little teeny tiny wasps. These are wasps that don't sting you, but they are predators on other insects. So grow a lot of these things in your garden, and also a lot of things. I went and taught at a school where they were growing vegetables, and the teacher didn't understand. And I was talking. I said, "Oh, there's a reason to grow the flowers around your vegetables." And I said, "Yes, you need to have the flowers to attract all these good insects that are going to be the pollinators and the predators on the other. So you keep a balance. The insects will take care of themselves if you have a right balance of plants in your garden."
That's such excellent advice. Thank you so much, Christine. Well, I just wanted to mention a couple other things here. We have Color Kitchen. If you want to dye eggs for Easter with your kids, first of all, buy your eggs now, because if you want them to peel easily, hard-boiled eggs, you want the older eggs, right? And so Color Kitchen, these are all food-based dyes and non-toxic, no artificial anything. Color Kitchen egg dye kit, everyone. And if you're pregnant and you want to be able to dye your hair because you're feeling really ugly, Desert Shadow from Australia makes an incredible, it's good for your hair. Your hair will be incredible. You leave it in for 3 hours. But Desert Shadow. Yeah, it's not really henna, but it's all plant-based, and it's so incredible. And they have a hair oil that I tried the other day, and it has all these different essential oils, all organic, and it stimulates. You can feel, it has rosemary, actually, is good for hair growth, and you can feel it stimulating your hair follicles, and you just need a little tiny bit, and you really rub it in there. So if you're pregnant, you can use Desert Shadow and get yourself feeling good about how you look and do a little something with your hair there. Now I have Luke's. I tried this potato chip. I couldn't believe I liked it. It's like ketchup with mustard and pickle, and it's an organic potato chip. I highly recommend it. It's very good. And Hatch organic red enchilada sauce. I took this sauce and I added it to beef broth, and I added some pasture butter and peas, and I made an instant soup. A Mexican-style soup with the enchilada sauce and the beef broth together, and it was so great. Okay, well, that's all for our show today, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Christine Lampe, our Master Gardener. Everyone, if you want to have her come and speak, contact Master Gardeners Association. And please, everyone, buy organic and plant some organic milkweed and some nectar plants, and let's help the bees and butterflies, and no pesticides. Thank you so much for listening. Find us on smarthealthtalk.com, Blue Monarch Project, and social media. Please subscribe on YouTube. Thank you so much. I'm Elaine McFadden. Bye.
You use your smile. Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.